Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the best place on the internet for horror fonts. And today, contrary to what it says over here, is not Horror Font Friday. Today, so let me give this little preface this with so every October we do 31 days of horror fonts. So we design 31 typefaces. Sometimes it's just an alphabet, sometimes a little bit more. I also do weekly alphabets lately, which is Horror Font Friday, but I've actually been doing that for years. So on my computer, I have all of these alphabets. Some of them have numbers, some of them are just alphabets. And lately, I've been trying to optimize my process of taking these alphabets and then putting them into completed typefaces. And a lot of them are pretty much complete. They just never got released for whatever reason, because I'm kind of unorganized and I sidetrack pretty easily. But today we're going to look at some of those old faces. So we're going to be looking at this typeface here, which came from a sticker that said the latest and most authentic film record about people and pornography in today's Denmark. Which is a pretty funny piece of lettering. I took the letters. This is kind of close to the flexograph font that I have, except that font was based on the lettering of like a flexograph printing process onto corrugated cardboard. This one just comes from, I believe, a film poster. I'm not even sure where this was sourced. This is from January of 2025, and as of now, it is March of 2026. So this is a little over a year old. I had a folder on my computer marked January 2025, and it had that font, this DS Faceless, which comes from, I think, Curse of the Faceless Man, I think is the name of the movie. Death Squad, which is a modified version of Taste of Blood lettering. Pirates of Penzance, which came from, I got this little Pirates of Penzance handout from a antique store. I like the lettering. Easter, which came from an Easter book. And Elysion, not really sure how you say that. That came from a Reddit post where somebody was requesting a piece of lettering or had a question about what it was. So I built out some typewritery. I was trying to mess with like rounded corners and stuff like that. But so we're going to take a look at some of these and see if we can't get them a little more to completion. And the first one we're going to start with is this Denmarker. So I'm going to shut up since I've been talking for like 4 minutes here. Probably not even looking at the camera. And we are going to dive right in. So I've already done a little bit here, and maybe I'll explain it when I get to the next font, if we get that far. But I'm probably not even going to really do a lot of talking. I might even speed this video up. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm going to be listening to music when I design, because that's typically what I do and helps me kind of get in the zone. So I'm going to put on, instead of just a loop, I'm actually just going to put on a full album. So when it ends, we'll kind of know where we're at, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and take it away. I got this this V and a square here. So one of the first things I'm going to do, I have a document open in another window that you can't see, but it has these sequences like this. and auto-generating those, outline, Command-Shift-G to ungroup them, and then these will essentially build out what comes from here. And obviously first it's numbers. First and foremost, it's numbers. You also notice some of these aren't exactly horror fonts. I always get a lot of requests for non-horror fonts from people, which is interesting. I also find that I have trouble marketing non-horror fonts, but some of my best-selling fonts aren't not horror fonts. I just like making them the most. So this one's like, what, like a gothic? Whoa. And you can, I mean, take note of kind of what I'm doing here. You've probably seen me do a lot of this before, but this video might go a little bit further. I'm not really going to describe a lot of what I'm doing or why. I'm just kind of going to bust through this. Sometimes I often kind of wonder, like, if showing this makes me look better or worse. Not like better at what I'm doing, but like, does it make you kind of look at this and be like, oh my God, these are so thrown together, or so, you know, like, but you gotta remember that I just do this kind of constantly. And I want these to look kind of hand-drawn. That's like the other thing, because they are hand-drawn. Albeit with a mouse and my hand and not a pencil traditionally. I actually really like drawing with a Wacom tablet or iPad or pencil, but it hurts my wrists so bad. So I don't really do it as much as I used to. This is pretty fun. My biggest problem with this is doing this right now. It's still just an exercise. Like, actually releasing this would be the actual feet, you know. And this 8 I'm not thoroughly convinced by. I'm not like by my method of making 8s is what I mean. Like, I'm not sure I totally like it yet. I used to do it by stacking zeros, but I feel like this method looks more natural. So now I'm going to use Fontself. Grab my guides here, go in, and I'm going to assign numbers and just do the smart space and kerning and save it. Replace. Got to save it again because for some reason in Illustrator, when you save it once, it disappears. Might just be my computer or my workflow. All right, now this, what we're doing, we're going to cut right through that. And we start out with parentheses, which involves just going a little bit beyond. And we'll go ahead and do this one while we're in the flow. And these are going to be just 2 bars, just, you know, horizontal. The 5 we're going to cut there and cut here. We're going to slide it over to about the midpoint. Select them both and get Pathfinder and just combine that shape. I totally work destructively. I do a lot of things non-destructive, but I find that this, just the way my mind kind of works with wanting to preserve things and save things, that just like trying to not do that and work in a way that like it's changing and evolving and it can't go back is kind of more interesting and kind of helps me face the challenge of reality. I don't know, that's a weird... Like, they always tell you to work non-destructively, and it's like, well, why? Because we're designers? Because the client's going to have a million changes for us? Like, why do we get stuck like that? Like, you know, sculptors don't work non-destructively. I'm going to warp this. I've got it set at 50 right now. That feels okay. And then I'm going to grab this bottom one and just apply the same action or the same effect. Object, we're going to expand appearance. And then this bottom one will rotate it. Now, I can get away with doing it that way because this font is not doesn't have any drips, so I could rotate that bottom one around. What I do then is I group that, and that's my circle. And we'll actually move that over there. And this circle we're going to duplicate 3 times. Actually, we're only going to duplicate it twice, because this one we're going to use Pathfinder and make it all one shape, because you notice this weird squareness of the middle of the circle. I'm going to round that off a little bit better. And then we are going to make it a little bit bigger. And then we're going to duplicate that one, and that's going to become our copyright and our registered logos. I know you're supposed to make the registered logo smaller and near the top, but I don't do that. I like them being big and in your face. But so, and maybe that's a trademark of me. You'll see one day I'll have a Wikipedia page or something, and they'll be like, Nick didn't know how to draw registered marks. He also made the euro symbol look terrible. And his @ symbols were not where it's at. So we flatten that side out a little bit. And there's our @. And that's actually a pretty good one, because it looks curved a little bit like the @ symbol's supposed to. You notice also with the @ symbol, I did not join. I didn't go in with Pathfinder and mush the shape. And I feel like that gives it a little bit of variation. Also, between the copyright and stuff, the @ symbol should be a little bit thicker. That's just me. I don't know if that's real deal or not. Now I'm going to take these bars and see how I'm like kind of pushing things around to the side and stuff. There's a reason for all of this, but I will get to that in a bit. So I'm going to group that. That's my M dash. And I do this kind of reverse. You'll notice my N dash is going to go there and here. I'm going to delete that first one. This is my regular dash. And this Pathfinder, delete the center. Sometimes I'll just mush compress them, but I feel like deleting the center, then I don't have to. It's a quicker cleanup of the sides, like that. And that's my underscore. Hey, look, it's the V again. All right, so now I'm going to mush those down, group them together, and I want them to be like way smaller, because these are my equals sign for my math. And I don't know, I feel like another trademark thing that I do a lot is I make my math symbols a little too chunky. The fact of the matter is, I make display fonts. I don't even need to be making math symbols. But I do anyway, because it's just practice. And it also, I find it useful because things like these are good for multilinguals, and dashes are important. Like, you're going to use a dash, you're making it anyway. You might as well go ahead and make all this stuff, because you can make it really quick. Whoops. You're just making composite shapes from composite shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all that and deselect that. And I'm going to pause for a second. All right, we're gonna go ahead and Command F12, which, because we're opening a script and we have this fancy script here, it opens up this dialog box. This is a script that I made to help this go faster. These are symbols and math. And we're going to go ahead and run the script. Glyphs sorted, renamed, and reordered. And now what that just did, for those of you watching at home, is in here in my layers, my sublayers, it just named every piece what it actually is. And I can double check in here to look at them. So what that will do is now I can highlight all of those glyphs, reopen Fontself, hit the batch button, and now they're all in here, named what they're supposed to be. Just smart again. And then save it. Enter, yes, replace. Save it. Enter, yes, replace. So now I have all those. Which is good, because in the next part, these next parts I actually haven't fleshed out as well as some of the rest of this. So I equals so. Group. So I'm going to duplicate this I. I'm going to cut it down the middle and make it a little bit shorter. About there. Pathfinder, once again being very destructive with my letters. Duplicating this, stretching it. And then one thing that I don't like about stretching is stretching in general. It breaks a lot of the integrity of the shape, the warping. I accidentally closed all the windows again. Let's duplicate that a couple more times. I want this to be, we're going to go -18, and this side we're going to go 18. Just kind of smoothing these a little bit better. A little bit more definition. Sometimes I hate these key codes. Because then I'm like, oh, where do I go next? Well, let me reference my, oh, it's closed. All right, so from that, we had an equal sign in there, I believe. Yeah, we did. Gonna grab the equal sign. I want to shrink it down a little bit just because I want to try and get the widths to be the same or similar. We'll go ahead and release the compound path. That is the one thing that I don't like about this method. And granted, the method with like running the script and bouncing it in and out of Fontself, I literally just started doing that a couple days ago, you know, like maybe a week or so. It's not really a I've been doing this for years type of thing. It's a am I gonna need this equals again? I am. All right, so but I can just select one and do that and make it a little bigger. must be puppy time to walk the dogs. Oh no, screen time for the week. Next we have the dollar sign, allegedly. So you'll notice, like, there's not as much redrawing or anything in this one. I'm literally just keep grabbing the same characters. You also see I keep duplicating like the equal sign and stuff like that, because I don't necessarily have a good method for this section yet. So we're gonna cut that out. I know I can run it right through, but I like that a little better. Now we're going to be grabbing 2 of these. One's for that. I don't need that anymore. We'll just get rid of it. Don't even worry. We're going to run that a lot more. So it looks like it is even from the top right. And this got really thin when we did that, so I'm going to just thicken it up a little bit. And Pathfinder again. So that is our slash. Why don't I make a slashed L now? Because it's not part of the process. Why don't you make a per 1,000 here? Again, not part of the process. And I don't know why I have all these weird... I always think about this every time I get here. Like, why don't I make a per 1,000 right there? It'd be that easy. I currently don't include it in my... That's not true. It's in some of my fonts, but it's not part of my, like, general checklist. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But, so there's that. This one... Oh, you know what? In my original lettering, there's already these. So this is actually an interesting time saver. So sometimes when I have like weird shapes like that, I try not to redraw them. Just because, like, oh, it already had one. Like, let's use that. That might be fun. So I'm going to keep the S. I'm going to delete the I. The eyes, and move the V over. So I'm going to duplicate this, move that over. I'm going to duplicate that. So delete the top of that. That gives me period, comma, colon, semicolon. And I like to just kind of affect one of the edges there, just to mix it up a little bit, make it a little different. Same with my single to my double here. I will also just make a little bit of variation, usually on one of them. It's usually on the second one, but that time it's on the first. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and smooth that a little bit smaller, just to give it a little bit of variation. Group that, group that. I'm gonna actually take my degree symbol and blow it up. I've been doing that lately. I don't know. Exclamation point. Rotate for inverted exclamation point. Sometimes I like to spin the top back around, especially if I'm dealing with a dripping bloody font. Sorry, I'm gonna move this, reflect that on the vertical axis, 2 S's. Just get it in the center. And you know what, we're gonna I don't know if you noticed, but it was, the back of it was dipping too far below. So I don't actually, oh, see how that disappeared? That happens sometimes too. I don't like how rounded that is. It looked all right with the exclamation point, but I don't think it does with the question mark. So I'm going to go ahead and just square it off a little bit. And maybe even pull it down. I kind of wish it was a little thicker. And I could do that. I understand that's all on me, but I'm not going to. I might actually even thin it a little bit. No, just kidding. I'm not going to do that. That's a terrible idea. And that's a little bit different there for our punctuation. So where did that leave us? We did maths. So now we'll select those, hit F12 again and run our script. And this time we're doing technical symbols and punctuation. Run that script, hit OK. I will do kind of a quick run look at these to make sure they're all right. You notice some of these I have Unicode values. It'll still import the same way, but it looks like everything worked out properly. So now I can take those. Sorry if I'm yelling. The music got loud. And batch those in. We'll smart again. And save. Replace. Save. Replace. All right, so coming up next, we're just going to do a whole batch of stuff. Now, that was like the hard part. Or not, none of it was necessarily hard, like as you can see, but that's like the time-consuming part. Let me make sure that I don't have any missing characters here. No, it looks like we're looking pretty good. So everything from here on out, we can pretty much do. And then once we finish what I just pasted on the pasteboard, then we're going to be doing diacritics. And then we're considered at 100%, which means we're 100% ready to take it into Glyphs and start that part. Which I have less optimization in. I don't really run a whole lot of scripts in Glyphs, but perhaps one day. I cut that there because I thought I was going to have to redraw them, but I didn't. I think that works. This is what I was talking about earlier with poorly drawn Euros. Squeeze it in, pull it out. I understand that there's also supposed to be an angle to them, but I don't do that. I don't know why. The sterling, this is where I really make a mess of things. There's supposed to be like a shape off the back. I rarely draw that. Again, not totally sure why. In my mind, I'm like, you get the idea. Which is a terrible thing to say. I'm and like I said, 9 times out of 10, these don't even get released. I just kind of make them because I have a compulsion and it's fun. But I'm trying to get better. Whoa, did you see that mess? Trying to get better at releasing them. Because there might be ones that I don't think they're very good, or I don't think anybody's going to want them, but people could be sitting around waiting for them, you know? Oh yeah, these are the curly brackets. This, at one point, was my least favorite character to draw. I think at one point, almost every character was probably my least favorite character to draw. Not that I ever, like, didn't enjoy this process at all, but, like, some of them were just more tedious and cumbersome and just complicated. I didn't draw them as much. I wasn't as used to them. And that's kind of why I started this practice of kind of drawing more characters on a weekly basis. So that I could get used to doing these shapes that I'm not as used to, being a strictly English speaker. I'm also just drawing the same thing over and over, essentially. So, you pick up the repetitions. It's the English alphabet. It's not, anything too complicated. It's more than 26 letters, though, as you can see, but even just drawing the alphabet itself would be more than 26 letters. If you did the lowercase as well, it'd be at least 52. But, oh, did you see how I made them lesser than greater than symbols? I'm going to reflect that. That way it keeps the same thickness on the top and bottom. A lot of times I'll rotate them, but I feel like it makes them a little uneven. That still feels a little uneven, but I don't know. I'm going to reflect both of those. Should have grabbed that in there too when I was reflecting and just done them all at once, but we'll go ahead and cut that right there. Make this an ampersand, and to top this off, we're going to make the 3 cut right there. And this is all pretty funny because that 3 was just a B originally, if you remember, a couple minutes ago at the beginning of this video. We had a weird looking B, and now we have an ampersand. Like, how the hell does that work? There we go. I like how that looks. There's another weird choppy right there, but this is going to be my tilde. I'm going to extend it a little bit. Or my ASCII tilde. I probably make those wrong. Ask anybody. I'm going to group the TM there, this V, and that. These are going to get reflected. Oh, I should have done it on there, but they're going to get reflected on the horizontal. This T is going to get cut down the middle and cut right there, and the bottom of it is gone. And that is then going to finish constructing my asterisk. And then those numbers are just going to be numbers. But I'm going to take all this. Should probably throw the restricted symbol in there too, huh? But so that symbol that I'm sizing him to, that was my ordinal. And there we go. So now those are that size. So again, we're going to select that, deselect the guides. What did I say? Shift F12. Get our script out again. That keeps the modal keeps opening in the wrong window. We're doing currency, brackets, ligatures, and superscripts. Go ahead and run it. Let's make sure that that ran correctly. I'm seeing everything looking pretty good. And you notice I have all my superscripted numbers as Unicode because that worked the best. All right, so now this is the final push before we go into glyphs. And what we're doing here is ease. Now the E's are actually just there for space. So I can kind of visually see how big I actually want these to be, and so that they actually look correct in the context of the letter. I always like these to be a little bit bigger. Back to a vertical baseline reflection. Group that. Size that. Rotate it a little bit. And oh, we ran out of stuff. That's a Hungarian umlaut, by the way. Oh no! I forgot to import the last of it. So that's not a problem. We'll just highlight all that stuff that we just did. Batch it in. Smart spacing kern. And then we save it twice. It's so nice, we save it twice. So that missing character was my ASCII tilde. But before we get to that, so the reason that everything has this very specific order, where I'm like, well, don't do the ASCII tilde yet, I got to do this first, is because that renaming script that I have is actually based on the order of all of the letters on my artboard. So it names all the layers from left to right, kind of based on what's in what spot. Kind of like if you're familiar with Fontself has like the alphabet importer, and if you have like the wrong amount of letters, it'll let you know, you know. And here goes the last one, the Ogonek. I have no idea how to draw this character. That's not really true, but I feel like I take a lot of liberties. And then delete with ease. Bring our script back, tell it that we're doing diacritics, and just go ahead and run it. I'm not even going to check because I can't see the diacritics in the menu anyway, even with my glasses on. They're just too small. We'll go ahead and batch that, import anyway. Because everything's above and below the baseline, it's going to say, hey, just so you know, smart spacing kern. It's too advanced. I think I did do upper and lowercase on this one, so there'd be like a difference. Yes. So we'll set that up to rotate in Glyphs, but yeah, for now, first we're going to save that, replace, and I will be right back with Glyphs as soon as I use the restroom. All right, I'm back, and we're in Glyphs. So first thing I tend to do in Glyphs is go in here. Usually there's a lot more information. But we're going to enter my vendor ID and delete the glyph order. And this is Glyphs 2. I like working in Glyphs 2. I know Glyphs 3 exists. If you could see my menu bar, I have it. I also have Glyphs Mini. But Glyphs 2 is my drug of choice for type design. I am also going to take that apple and make it so it doesn't export, because I'm actually going to put my logo in the command. The Option Shift K will make my logo. I recommend everybody do that instead of the Apple symbol that exports with a lot of Apple fonts. All right, give me one more minute. I have an automation that I've been working on, and I'm going to run that. So I was trying to write a script for Glyphs 2, but didn't necessarily work to help me with my my font information, filling that out and modifying it kind of quickly. It worked in Glyphs 3, but not really that well in Glyphs 2. But I have another script that I'm working on for Glyphs 2 that will help get this optimized to go from Fontself to Glyphs. So you notice I'm just going to run the script. It's a little buggy, so it might do some weird things or crash out. But here it is. Before running this script, please remember to delete the glyph order custom parameter, which we did, and close the font info dialog box, which we did. Keep your arms and legs inside the Glyphs app at all times. Okay. Now let's just watch it do its thing. Oh, you can't even see it doing its thing. It's over here typing stuff. There it goes. I'm actually not going to do that and I'm not going to do this because those were things that were getting kind of buggy. Those were new additions. So what that script did was it tidied up all of our characters. It added all of our anchor points. It renamed some of the characters like the euro to lowercase, vertical bar to bar. If there were any Glyphs likes to name your alternates .alt. So it'll rename those to stylistic sets so that they'll show up better in OpenType programs. It created all my combination characters. It renamed the tilde, which often gets named ilde from a lot of other importing programs. And overscore got named Macron, and you notice here my tilde and my Macron were in the wrong spots. So I just switched those. And the reason why it didn't really matter is because I like to grab all of my marks once they've been created and give them all even sides. I can't, side bearings, sorry. And I feel like that just helps them with the anchors. And I'm setting anchors again because it's fun to do. So I've got a few other things that I'll do, but they're not in the Automator. So we're going to go ahead and kind of run through them together. And this is going to also be a little clunky because the Automator has some weird parts in it. I don't know what got done and what didn't. Excuse me, hiccup. My dotless I and J and my IJ characters didn't get made, so we'll go ahead and make those. My FI and FL ligatures didn't get made, so we'll go ahead and make those. They're not really ligatures here. What else? I see I've got my multilingual characters weren't in the lowercase, some were in the uppercase. So we are going to put those where they belong. My quotes. We're going to keep existing. Something happened in my renaming. The way it used to work, the quotes worked correctly, but let me make a quick modification because that did not work. I'm going to pause the video and make a modification to this a little bit. All right, I think I have it right now. Let's see. Perfect. All right, so I make those. I take the base. There. Still broken. All right, hold on. All right. This time is the charm. Excellent. All right. So these two are base, so they're actually going to be the same as the comma. Perhaps. Drop that down. This is my left, and this is my left. So I'm actually going to take those and flip them. I don't know. Let's go through and update glyph info and correct path directions. And this is probably a good time to save it if you didn't save it at the very beginning. I'm going to save it on the desktop because we're saving a glyphs file, not a font file. And then everything went dark, and now you can see everything's saved and new. That looks weird. I want to flip it. Just did the once over glance. I'm going to go into my info. Still not populating any of that yet, but we're going to update and compile some features. And I'm going to add a feature for contextual alternates. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put in a script that's going to alternate an uppercase and a lowercase so that the user doesn't have to do that. It'll automatically do that for them. Sound fun? I paused it and tested this out because I couldn't fully remember if I had it right or anything. But once you get that in, update and compile. Basically what this does is takes the first one, that's my uppercase set. This group is my lowercase set, and I tell it to alternate by subbing whenever it does 2 uppercase in a row, substitute the second one by lowercase. Whenever it does 2 lowercase in a row, substitute the second one by an uppercase. Does that make sense? Maybe not. That was a little fast, but we'll go ahead and close that, and we'll give it a test drive by typing blood, which is always fun. You can see here that it didn't actually do anything because we don't have the contextual alternate feature. Now watch when I click contextual alternates, the second O, actually every letter will change. The first O and the D both changed. It's not as hard as it looks. Sometimes. So there you go. If you want a bouncing bass line, you just make your lowercase bounce a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and fill out the font information.